everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. Boy, what a beautiful day today. Okay, getting right into this, I just finished watching a YouTube clip from the David Pakman show. He has on Professor Adrian Barton. Barton has a book called The Truth About Denial, Bias and Self-Deception in Science, Politics, and Religion. Here is you can see that book. I'm going to put all the links in here. But, let me just play a little bit of this and then I'll comment. So here we go from the David Pakman show. Here he is. It's great to welcome to the program. Hold on. I'm not going to hold up the phone. I'll just play the audio and then we'll go from there.
Today, Adrian Barton, who's professor of philosophy at Wake Forest University and also author of the book The Truth About Denial, Bias and Self-Deception in Science, Politics, and Religion. It's really great to have you on. I appreciate it.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me.
So to start with, denialism. How far back does denialism go as far as we know? I mean, were there early denialists when there were original theories about what are humans and what is outer space and is weather God or simply the machinations of climate? Or I mean, like, how far back does denialism go in some way, shape, or form?
Well, yes, all of the above. I would send it back several million years, as a matter of fact. So Homo sapiens evolved in small groups, and
it's all explained here.
Going back further to our ancestors, they were in the same situation, and it's a really important adaptive trait if you're living in a small group to be able to integrate yourself into the group's ideological worldview. You know, if your group worships Poseidon, you better figure out a way to believe in Poseidon. Otherwise, you're out, for example. Right?
So basically, you're adapting your beliefs to your environment, right? So it's advantageous to believe in as he goes on. Okay, I'll play a little bit more and then I'll talk for a few. Here we go.
Right. So it's really deep in our evolutionary history that we have formed this talent for rationalizing beliefs in order to integrate with a larger worldview. So yes, and so then that moves forward.
Again. So by the way, personally, I'm not getting involved with Facebook anymore. It's a waste of time. I mean, since 2016 or before 2015, interacting with these deplorables, Trump supporters, it's a waste of fucking time. I haven't changed one person's mind. Not that I'm in the business of changing people's mind, but it's just even, walking around, Madeline's mother or brother who are conservative. It's a waste of fucking time. And it's all explained here. I just do my YouTube thing. And thank you, by the way, everybody who's watching this. Continue on.
Through history, all kinds of religious beliefs, obviously, that's probably the beginning of it all. Beliefs about other groups, because what our evolutionary context was, we evolved in small groups that were in competition with other groups.
Yep.
So if we hate the group, if our group hates the group across the river, I'm going to find reasons to hate that group too. Otherwise, I'm not able to integrate myself into my own group, because we don't survive well on our own. Cooperation, social cooperation, that's our evolutionary niche.
There's another great book by Harari. Everyone's been talking about *Sapiens*, which came out a few years ago. He's had a couple of more books too, Homo Deus, and then there's another one. But basically, we can't do it alone, right? We thrive in groups. Here we go, Harari.
That's what gives us our advantage.
That's interesting. So early on, there was an evolutionarily advantageous reason why we were able to sort of potentially suppress contradictory information in order to be in line with our group. Does that still hold true today in the same way? I mean, is it an issue of evolutionary advantage at this point?
He's such a great interviewer, David Pakman. His questions,
aren't necessarily an advantage now, but it's still there. It's right. still deep in our cognitive makeup that we have these skills. We're actually very, very good at adapting our beliefs, not just our behavior, but our beliefs to our situation.
Yep.
And you mentioned, ignoring evidence or picking out the evidence that you want, rationalizing, and what's called confirmation bias.
Yep.
Right. You ignore the evidence you don't want, and you seek out evidence or reasons to believe what you want to believe anyway. And that becomes actually particularly toxic in our current media environment.
Confirmation bias, motivated reasoning.
To get the worldview that that you want to believe, and you get the picture of the world presented to you in HD video, and described to you the way you want to hear it. And and so we have what's called these media bubbles that people get into. In addition to things like our geographic sorting here in the United States, in particular, people have sorted themselves very well geographically into like-minded communities.
Is there any demographic trends that you see in terms of denialism and sort of
older white guys?
Confirmatory evidence, maybe like in terms of age? Is there a certain age at which this becomes more prevalent? And if so, is that an education or a cultural thing or anything demographically that you've observed?
Well, you'll hear different theories from different social scientists about this. Younger people have demonstrated a little more cognitive flexibility.
Sure.
And openness.
Yep.
Older folks are, as you would say, are more set in their ways. They're also a little more sensitive to threat. They feel more threatened, and that's a really big factor here.
That really is the truth. There's a threat, So, I mean, when you're talking about, let's say, religion, right? You could bring up all this solid evidence, and it makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. I mean, just think about it. Your whole worldview, your world could literally collapse, death, without, something as heavy as that. So let me continue and I'll talk.
If we also look at the progressive/liberal versus conservative ways of thinking about the world. So where conservatives obviously skew at this point in the U.S. Whiter and older, obviously. Conservatives, by definition, are what we call system justifiers. They are pro-status quo.
Yeah.
Conservatives are comfortable with the way things are in terms of the social and economic order and its hierarchies, and they will seek out reasons to dismiss evidence that there's something wrong with that order.
Exactly.
Such as systemic inequality, and younger people are less prone to do that.
So it seems like there's an asymmetry there in the sense that when you talk about the status quo and you think about inertia, certainly it takes less energy to maintain the status quo in general, all else being equal, than it would to change the status quo. And so there is a sort of, it seems that there would be a structural advantage to those who are predisposed to keep things the same because it's easier to do so in a sense.
Well, the status quo is upheld by all kinds of systems. For example, the police. The police are in any society, the police are the tip of the spear when it comes to maintaining.
Let me just pause this for a second.
Social.
I got into it a little bit about people who are up in arms about, these protests and the violence and the looting. We all know it's bad, but it's like, oh, peaceful, don't even block traffic. I go, how much change is going to happen with that? I mean, it's an ugly thing, violence and looting, but it's a last resort thing. And as he said, people who have power want to keep the status quo, right? Cops, well, maybe that's not the best example there, but yeah, no, it is like the status quo, law enforcement. So when Trump says law and order, that's what he's talking about. Let me continue on.
And economic hierarchy.
Yeah.
That's when we say law and order, that's what the order part of that means. When Trump calls himself Nixon calls himself the law and order president, and Trump calls himself the law and order president. That's what the order is. The order is maintaining the current social and economic hierarchy.
Exactly.
And that includes, obviously, systems of systemic racial bias and systemic structural economic inequality.
I'm interested in climate change in this context because we could think about a way in which denying climate change goes against the known facts and may be advantageous if you're part of certain political groups, right? So in order to keep the peace, as you
Let me
suggest,
pause this.
we may have this.
I may make this a two-parter. So he's going to get into it about, it seems like people who are more educated when it comes to climate science seem to be more adamant, right, about with their denial. I for the past couple of years, I was interacting with this guy who I believe was a geologist, and he was a climate change denier, but he was so damn adamant. It was like kind of confusing. Like, what the fuck? You should know this. Let me just play a little more of this, and it's explained. Ready?
Tendency to say, hey, let's, I'm going to, even if there's information that suggests climate change is real and it's man-made, I'm going to stick with my group. But over the long term, if it's true what science says about the climate, it's self-destructive to the human race and to the planet. So it seems that there is a long-term disadvantage when it comes to the sort of evolutionary aspect of it. How should we interpret climate change denial in this context?
David, I'm very interested in climate change denial, so I'm glad you bring it up. The first thing I'd want to stress is that being a climate science denialist has nothing to do with being stupid or being uneducated.
Right.
In fact, what we see is the reverse.
Oh, he's going to talk about it here.
If you're a conservative, you're more likely to be a climate science denier if you have college education.
Isn't that weird?
You're more likely, when you give people tests, not just on science literacy, but climate science literacy, you're more likely to be a denier. If you're conservative, when you score higher on a climate science literacy test. So what is that telling us?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck?
That's telling us is that we are really good at rationalizing our own beliefs. The more information we have, the more ammunition we get to rationalize those beliefs. This puts us in a classic game theoretical situation. I don't know if I want to get too technical on this. But, where individual decisions about what's best for them in terms of what belief systems they want to hold on to become collectively absolutely disastrous in the long run.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So in other words, the more information we have, maybe, not the more that our beliefs align with what we would call an empirical reality, but the better we are at justifying the beliefs that we have.
That's it.
Well, we have more capacity to rationalize. It doesn't mean we have to.
Okay, let me cut it off there.
Definitely
So my friend, the geologist, he's educated. He knows a lot about climate science. So he's got more ammunition. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to put all the links in the comment section, and I'll do another one on this. Okay, good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding here at Tabor Talk.